Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. Previously, Bai was accepted as a disciple to become an immortal. In the immortal realm, Bai would discover that his chosen walk is able to double the power of anything he puts in it. However, he loses some lifespan when he does. Fast forward 5 years to when Bai has led his sector to victory in several wars and is now patriarch. After taking the Sky River Court's place in the middle stream, Bai participates in a trial for his sector. Bai was all alone against 3 teams, but he overcame all odds to capture all the seals and take first place. Bai's sector was visited by a terrifyingly powerful, late-stage celestial cultivator, and Bai was selected to be a hostage. Middle stream sectors must choose important individuals to become these hostages, who will then train in the master sector as a show of loyalty. This, however, also means that those selected may never return. The story continues as Bai prepares to leave for the master sector. He packs up all the expensive gifts he was given as farewell presents, but there is just far too much. June arrives to apologize for not being at the selection ceremony, and she wonders if it was her fault for not being there to stop Bai from being selected. She also can't go with him to the main sector because she must lead the bloodstream sector while her father and brother are gone. Bai understands that she had responsibilities to take care of in her sector, so he doesn't blame her at all. June is concerned about something else, and she makes Bai really uncomfortable by getting super close to him. She reminds him that he will be leaving soon, so if they don't get intimate right now, they might never get the chance. Bai isn't sure what she means exactly, but he decides to make his move anyway. Just then, Mai barges in and begins arguing with June. Mai calls June a coward for not going with Bai, but June mocks Mai for not being strong enough to go with him. Mai wants her to leave so she can say goodbye to Bai alone, but June isn't done yet. Bai's friends watch from outside, and they think about how lucky he is. Zhang accidentally shoves him into Bai's house, and he realizes that everyone is there to say goodbye to Bai. Bai clearly has his hands full, so Zhang says he will come back later, but Bai uses this opportunity to get away from the arguing. To change the mood, he tells everyone to celebrate and get drunk. Elsewhere, Lee decides that he won't be going with Bai because he wants to leave the task to the younger cultivators. Everyone is worried about Bai, but Lee hopes that Bai will be able to get even stronger from the training. The next day, Bai and his chosen 5 companions prepare to leave, and Bai gives a speech to everyone in his sector. He thanks everyone for their support over all the years and for accepting him as their patriarch. Everyone supported him through the ups and downs, so he promises to train really hard to get stronger for everyone. Bai doesn't know if he will ever be able to return, so he thanks his teacher Lee more than anyone for bringing him to this sector all those years ago. Bai says his final farewell and begins to leave. The crowd says goodbye back to their fearless leader, and they promise to wait for him. Back at his house, we see that Bai left a recording for Tidon. The message explains that if Tidon is hearing it, it means that Bai has left and he didn't want to wake up his adopted Beast King's son. Bai explains that he won't be by his side for some time and he isn't even sure if he will be back, so he tells Tidon to make sure he takes care of himself. Bai apologizes for not being able to take Tidon with him, and he tells Tidon to protect the sector. Tidon senses Bai leaving, so he rushes outside just in time to see him go. Elsewhere, some green-haired guy tells his grandfather that Bai will be arriving soon, and he is concerned. Bai has a reputation for being a serious disruptor, especially after he changed up the midstream sector's resource allocation. The guy's grandpa tells him not to worry though, because while Bai is a troublemaker, he does not pose a threat to them. A supreme being will be arriving soon, so Grandpa wants Greenhair to focus on how he will impress this powerful being. A while later, Bai and his companions are amazed when they get their first look at the Starry Sky Pinnacle sector. The concentration of spiritual energy in this place is hundreds of times higher than it is in the middle sectors. There are beautiful colors all over the place, and Bai wonders if the Starry Sky Pinnacle sector was built on a rainbow. These colors aren't just for looks, they also correlate with the power in the sector. The rainbow is divided into 3 layers. The higher you go, the higher the spiritual energy becomes, and the highest rainbow is the Sky Rainbow. Only the most powerful gods are allowed to live in the Sky Rainbow. Bao points out that Bai is pretty powerful himself, so he should be able to get them into the Sky Rainbow. The confident Bai of course agrees with him, and as their patriarch, he promises to get them into the highest level of the sector. Bai tries to decide where to start, but Zhang notices that Song doesn't seem to care. Song doesn't, as he explains that he's more concerned about getting stronger. The teleportation of our group begins, so Bai tells everyone to get ready to witness the greatest welcoming ceremony for their patriarch. Bai is seriously disappointed though when he arrives to find that they have just been teleported to the middle of some town. Bao wonders if there was some kind of mistake, as the building makes it clear that they're in one of the lower cities of the sector. Bai's friends can't believe that there wasn't even a welcoming ceremony, but Bai tells them not to be discouraged. Bai assures them that at the very least, his rank among the official disciples in the sector is high. Just then, one of the official disciples tells Bai and his group that they are now just disciples of the lowest rank, and they don't have any privileges. The official gives Bai's group disciple tokens and tells them to stay outside the gate until they improve themselves. The group is discouraged to not even be formal disciples in this sector, but Mani reminds them that there is a promotion system here. As long as the contribution points that they offer to the sector is sufficient, they will be promoted and they will be allowed to ascend the rainbow. Bai completely agrees with her and declares that all they have to do is gather contribution points and everything will work out for them. Our group puts on the devices that they were given and they head out to explore the city. The place is very lively and our boys get torched by some fire tiger. Our group uses some of the money they were given and they take a look at all the city has to offer. Diviner has a portrait painted of himself and he gets into an argument with Bao because his drawing isn't done yet. After some time, everyone realizes that they're getting tired much faster than usual and they are starving. It turns out that because there's so much spiritual energy in the main sector, it also causes their body's energy to be consumed much faster than usual. It now makes sense why no one uses their skills around the city, because they will get tired quickly. Bai decides to take everyone to get a meal and they all celebrate their patriarch. They're all shocked though when Yuan declines the invitation. She explains that she got used to cultivating by herself after so many years and now she wants to explore on her own. Bai wonders if he did something wrong, so he asks Song, but Song is just worried about getting something to eat. At the restaurant, the owner assumes that Bai is a famous person of very high status, and Bai is pleased to finally be acknowledged. Bai asks for his most special dish to be served, and the guy does not let him down. The food looks amazing, but the portions don't seem like enough for Zhang. The owner explains that this is intentional because they are honoring Bai. The food highlights his noble quality and luxurious temperament. Our group notices that even the decorations in this place are luxurious, and the owner explains that his restaurant has existed for hundreds of years. He says that their cooking techniques have been refined to perfection, and he tells everyone to enjoy the meal. Song does his best to keep his composure, but he eventually gives in to his hunger. After the meal, the owner gives Bai the check, but Bai is horrified to find that he's being charged 46,000 contribution points. Bai can't believe it, and Song thinks that they were tricked. The owner shows them all the prices for his food, and everything is horribly overpriced. Bai wonders if they can figure out some kind of payment plan, so the owner comes up with a different idea. He explains that Bai can pay with something else other than contribution points. Bai doesn't know what he means, and he is horrified when the owner says that he wants to take his hands. Bai realizes that this is what the owner was after all along, and that is why there's so many hand statues everywhere. The owner gets impatient when Bai is hesitant, so he calls on some royal guards. Bai can tell that the guards are really strong, so he has to have a word with the owner. Moments later, we see that Bai and his group are free. The owner hopes they will come back someday, but Bao says that they're never coming back to his garbage restaurant. Everyone wonders how Bai got them out, and he says that he was simply honest with the owner. A look back shows that Bai tried using his clever way of speaking to convince the owner to let them go. He used all his tricks to gain sympathy with the owner, but this only resulted in a 1% discount. The owner was really stubborn, and Bai was all out of ideas, so he ended up using all of his money to pay the guy. Nearby, we see that our group is being watched by some guys, and they talk about how this trap was set up by a higher being. Their boss was behind it, and there's plenty more traps to come. Mani blames herself for not being knowledgeable enough to have avoided the restaurant, but Bai tells everyone not to worry and gives another speech. Everyone watches him in admiration, and he reminds everyone that he is great at making the best out of any situation. The story continues as Bai declares that they will first find a house so they can start earning contribution points, but they soon face their second major hurdle. They eventually find that with what little points they have, the only home they can afford is not exactly the palatial paradise that they were hoping for. A clever real estate agent does his job really well and tries to make the place seem a lot better than it actually is. He says that its feng shui is very good and its connection to nature is strong, to say the least. Huddled around a small fire in their new home and sharing a meager meal, Bai explains his plan for tomorrow with the others. Some of them will seek out jobs around the city, while he and Song go inspect the quest board and seek out a mission. Hopefully this will be enough to offset the extreme cost of living in Dong City and ease their burden. Manye explains that the quest board distributes a fixed number of missions at a fixed time every day until they are all taken. Missions are divided into 3 tiers depending on difficulty and level of reward. Main level rewards are the highest, but also the most dangerous. While easier missions give less points, they also won't drain as much energy from the people doing them. It is a balance of risk versus reward that one must consider carefully. Conveniently, the process of selecting missions is very streamlined and simple, requiring one to merely point the device they were given and choose before being teleported to the location. As Bai is considering his options from the list of missions, he is suddenly overwhelmed by a stampede of other disciples, all in a race to snap up the best missions for themselves. Competition is fierce, and Bai desperately tries to claim a mission before they're all gone. Missions are being taken rapidly, so Bai tells Song that they will just have to close their eyes and pick any mission they can get. However, before long, he and Song are left behind in the dust, the entire board wiped clean. They have little choice but to choose from the lesser missions with the less rewards, and Bai says it's better than nothing. Unfortunately for them, even the meaningless missions are incredibly popular, and again he's too slow. All the second level missions are gone now as well, but Bai hopes that the third and lowest level missions will be different. Bai is unfortunately very wrong. Every single one is taken, forcing Bai to leave empty-handed. Back at home, the gang laments the rotten luck as they realize that Dong City is no place for the weak. Jobs are tough to come by, and those that can find work are forced to compete fiercely for scraps, and that's if they can even get work in the first place. Bao took a job as a DoorDash delivery guy, and he thought that it would be easy because he could just fly around on his sword. Unfortunately, he quickly found out that flying on swords is illegal here. To make things worse, he doesn't even know his way around town. Diviner didn't do so well either, as he tried to use his skills like fortune telling to help him in a job. Unfortunately, this was just a server job, and he ended up getting fired. Diviner even tried some more questionable work, but he got fired from that too. The team is disheartened and tired, the city having taken much of them already, with its constant trials and tribulations. As Song slips on some moss growing around the dingy house, Bai has a brilliant idea. He calls the others to gather round close because he's got a plan. The next day, the guys, armed with bamboo staffs, are standing guard at the board before the missions are to be posted. As the other disciples descend on the board to snap up what missions they can as fast as they can, they begin to slip and fall. A look back to the night before shows that Bai's plan was to take all the slippery moss from outside their house and turn it into some kind of slippery moss brew. The guys then spread the brew across the whole yard, and no one can get close to the mission board without falling on their face. The other disciples are relentless, however, and begin throwing themselves as far as they can across the yard. Where one falls, another uses them as a stepping stone to get even closer. As they get closer and closer with each attempt, one eventually reaches the board, only to be swept away by the bamboo staff of the brothers and sent sliding back to the beginning. More and more disciples rush forward, and it looks as if the guys are going to be overwhelmed. Just then, the mission board lights up with today's assortment of missions. A shadow falls over the courtyard at that time, and everyone looks up to see a giant kite floating through the air. Holding on to it is Bai, soaring through the sky. With their advantage, Bai and the others manage to select all the top tier missions they want, or so they think. Spiritual chains appear and seal off the board before anyone can take a mission. Bai watches as Dong City guards descend upon the mess of the courtyard and announce that because someone caused such a ruckus in the mission square, the area is now in lockdown and no missions will be distributed. Bai isn't surprised in the least to see them, but we see that one of the mysterious guys from before is still watching them. The guards demand to know who's responsible for this mess, and everyone points at Bai. To his horror, the young master is told he must clean the courtyard immediately, and on top of that, he must pay a massive fine for his disorderly conduct. Bai could not be any more upset, and he thinks that his life is over. Up in the Sky Rainbow Pavilion, two men give the report to Li Yuan Shang. They tell him that their mission of making life hell for Bai and the rest of his sector is proceeding as planned. Soon they won't be able to survive at all in Dong City. The grandson of the Great Lord is pleased and informs his men that he no longer needs any updates on those insignificant people. In just under 3 days, Bai and his friends will be driven out, and those fools won't be a problem anymore. Soon their special guests will be arriving. Things have gone from bad to worse for Bai. In all their time in the city, the gang has failed to gain any points. They can't get any missions or find any work. And as the days pass, each one of them is growing weaker and weaker from the lack of food. Everyone is forced to meditate for as long as they can to conserve energy, but it's not enough to save them. Spirits are low, and Bai is convinced that someone is deliberately making things difficult. Regardless of who their tormentor is, Bai sees that his friends are struggling and decides he needs to say something. He suggests that Dong City might be too difficult to succeed in, so perhaps they would have better luck in Bay, a city even lower down. Things get really serious, and no one says anything at first. Before he can suggest selling his medicine to help, Song flies into a rage and gives Bai a piece of his mind. He didn't come all this way to just give up and quit. He means to climb the rainbow by the power of his own strength, and if Bai's too weak to follow, then the two of them no longer need to be in contact with each other anymore. Song decides to set off on his own. He can survive without Bai and the others slowing him down. He is soon followed by Man Yi, who despite Bai's efforts to have her stay, decides that she needs to find an old friend in order to come up with a solution for their problems. Things are looking dire for our group, and with his not-so-final breath, the dramatic diviner informs his young master that some disasters are impossible to avoid. Bai must let his brothers and sisters go, as they must let go of him, or none of them will have a chance to succeed. Only Zhang remains in the end, and Bai tells him he doesn't need to force himself, he can go too if he wants. Zhang doesn't want to go at all, yet leaves all the same, wishing Bai good luck. Bai attempts to give his oldest friend a parting gift to help him on his way, but Zhang turns him down, expressing his desire to perform purifications to get Bai, and so Bai should keep it for himself. With that, Zhang departs, and the young patriarch finds himself all alone in an empty and crumbling home. The others wonder if they made the right decision leaving as they have, but the truth is undeniable. They cannot continue together as one, or they will all go down. It turns out that they all had the same idea, to leave Bai for his own sake. They were just holding Bai back, and he will be better off without them. For now, they must survive on their own if they're to have any chance of climbing the rainbow. Later, wandering the streets like a beggar, Bai comes upon the scene of a man being thrown out of a store. Apparently, the guy's pathetic herbs are unwelcome in the Heavenly Society medicine store, which only deals with top-tier ingredients. Bai takes this as a sign and immediately rushes inside, pushing past the crowd of customers until reaching the front desk. He tells the old man behind the counter that he has something to sell and pulls the medicine he had been holding on to. In exchange, Bai is offered several medicine pills, but the price for each one is so much higher than he expected. Bai is stuck trying to decide what to buy, but by the time the old store clerk has returned to take his order, Bai has left. Outside, Bai scolds himself for not seeing the solution to his problem sooner, especially because it's something he has been very familiar with for years. His thoughts are interrupted as a crowd begins to form in the streets, people running to catch a glimpse of something in the sky. Bai overhears the news that a great ancestor is descending from above the celestial rainbow, someone of immense importance. High above, he can see a brilliant stream of light flowing down from the sky. As the light draws closer to the pavilion, the members of the Starry Sky Dow Pinnacle sector bow their heads in greeting to the envoy. A mysterious and heavenly beauty descends, taking the hand of her fellow envoy. Radiant and elegant, few can help but stare in awe. Far below, Bai looks on with regret. He considers himself to be a fool for letting things get so bad, and he decides to focus completely on refining his medicine. It's something he has always turned to when things got bad. Bai now knows exactly what he must do. He must become so great at making medicine that he becomes famous for his art, so that all will one day be amazed. For his sake and the sake of his sector, Bai must ascend and succeed, no matter the challenges before him. Our story continues with the Heavenly Envoy discussing the girl's arrival to their sector. Curious as to why she has arrived, and with 2 demigod servants at her side, the woman is asked what her business is. She replies that it's simply a personal matter and has nothing to do with them. Meanwhile, we join a pair of spies hiding in the trees overlooking Bai's dilapidated home. They wonder out loud what he could be doing in there for so long and assume that he must be starving. As night falls, the spies give up and leave after no sign of movement. Inside, Bai is diligently working on his medicine, manipulating his spiritual energy into something truly amazing. The smell alone of his medicine is enough to wash away his fatigue and hunger, nurturing his spirit and body. He wants to know what a taste will do, but he's interrupted by a commotion outside. A group of animals have been attracted to the aroma and aura of his medicine, acting strangely and stinking up the place. Bai decides that it would be better if he tested the medicine first before eating it himself. To do this, he catches and cages a starving rat. Bai allows it to eat the pill while he thinks about how much he can sell his new medicine for once he has mastered the refining process. Success in this world would certainly be enough to solve all his problems. Bai then dozes off while dreaming of all the possibilities. When he is next awoken by the rising of the sun, he notices that the cage has been broken and the rat has escaped. Alarmed, he sees something bouncing around the rafters, and he's shocked to see that the rat is full of energy and is also buff as hell. After showing off its moves, it bids Bai farewell and it disappears out of the front door like a badass. It's probably off to go find 4 turtles to train in the ninja arts. Amazingly, Bai's medicine not only cures physical ailments, but also unlocks one's spiritual potential. He wastes no time in getting to work, selling his newfound miracle medicine. In town, he sets up a stall and begins hawking his amazing Super Bigu pill to the people of Dong City. Despite his theatrics and excitement, it doesn't seem like anyone is interested. Just then, he hears 2 other merchants criticizing him for being new. Like everything else in the city, competition is fierce, and a brand new merchant on the street isn't going to catch the attention of customers by just putting up a sign. Bai isn't giving up, however, and quickly formulates a new strategy. If he can't sell his product on its own merits, then he will give the people something even better, and that is hope. As always, Bai acts dramatic and wonders why everyone has become so sad. Bai's words begin to attract people as he masterfully guides the people's attention to his miracle elixir. Their bodies cry out for help, and Bai has come to save them all. Fatigue, lethargy, dizziness, even stomach aches, and much more. This, he tells them, is the answer to all their woes. It isn't long before Bai's eccentric advertisement starts luring in a few people too curious not to at least stop and see what he's rambling about. However, despite his best efforts, Bai can't manage to sell even one. Exhausted and discouraged after a long day of no sales, Bai laments the fact that only the animals from before seemed interested in his medicine, and that was only because the smell attracted them. Just then, our genius protagonist gets a brilliant idea. He begins fanning the scent of the medicine towards the potential customers, and its incredible qualities quickly begin to turn people's heads. It isn't long before a crowd is gathered, eager to see what's going on. Even the 2 disparaging merchants from earlier are drawn in and begin probing Bai with questions. Bai informs everyone that the price for such magnificent medicine is only 100 points. The merchants are immediately skeptical and they can't understand why it's so cheap. Bai soothes their suspicions and proudly explains the efficacy of his Bigu pill. It's so potent that it has the minimum equivalent of 6 square meals in a single bite. The people are still hesitant, so Bai seals the deal by letting the crowd know that one of them that has gathered here today gets a one-time special offer. It won't be 100 points, they can have it for free. Bai chooses a lowly looking old man and gives him the pill free of charge. After eating the medicine, the crowd looks on in curiosity. First his face goes blank and a bit of blood runs down his nose. As if that weren't bad enough, he then turns purple and collapses. People start crying out that he's been poisoned and that the madman Bai has the audacity to sell fake medicine on the streets. Bai confidently defends himself at first, but then begins to think that maybe the medicine might be a bit too strong when the poor old guy looks to have stopped breathing. Just then, the old man suddenly leaps to his feet, but he's not old anymore. With a full head of hair and a ripped body, he dances around cheering at his newfound youth and incredible feeling coursing through his body. It isn't long before everyone's clamoring to get a hold of Bai's wonderful drug. They call it God's medicine, and everyone must have it. The cunning Bai says the quantity is limited, but customers who buy now and promise to give a glowing review can have priority. The points start rolling in, and Bai couldn't be more thrilled. However, he feels a small hand tugging at his cloak, and he notices a sickly looking kid at his feet. They're struggling just like Bai was, and they wonder if this miracle medicine will still be the same price tomorrow when he returns with more. Recognizing their plight, Bai agrees not to raise the price, and this is a relief to those who could not afford anything more expensive. Thrilled with his medicine and impressed with his generosity, the people begin to cheer Bai's name. As the days roll on, Bai's medicine flies off the shelves. Mastering the process means he can produce more and more pills each time, and he even begins giving discounts. While the medicine may be cheap, the amount of customers clamoring to get it is never in short supply, and before long, Bai has accumulated nearly 100,000 contribution points. Sometime later, we find Bai lounging in the courtyard of his newly restored residence, everything cleaned and orderly. Though he's doing well for himself, his thoughts are of his friends. He hasn't heard from any of them since they left, and he's worried to say the least. In the end, there's nothing to be done besides having confidence in them and focusing on growing his own influence and power. Meanwhile, the chief of Sky City, Chairman Zhou, is furious with his men. They had no idea Bai would do so well for himself despite their best efforts, and they plead to be punished for their failure. Bai's medicine has brought order and stability to the city, but that's not what Zhou wants. If he's to undo Bai's achievements, then there's only one man who can help him now, the old medicine master. As if summoned from the grave, the old master himself shows up, and to the chief's dismay, he's lauding the greatness of Bai's medicine. These past few days, he hasn't been sleeping at all. He's been studying and examining the Super Bigu pill and has discovered its secrets. There are only 19 ingredients used to create it, yet the resulting medicinal properties reach 123 different types of healing. In all his life, he has never witnessed such a special refining process. The chief asks if the old man can decipher its properties and make the pill himself. Medicine Man says that he cannot, and whoever made this has an understanding of herbs and the 5 elements equal to that of the medicine god himself. The chief is beside himself, but the old man does have a plan. If he can figure out how to dilute the effects of one pill and turn it into many, the strength of its medicine will be reduced, but the side effects will be just as bad, if not worse. Before the chief can ask any more questions, the old man goes scampering off. Chairman Zhou is frustrated, thinking the old medicine man must have gone crazy after eating the pill. But a mysterious guest tells him not to be so upset. This masked stranger was sent to aid Zhao in his efforts to undermine Bai, and he informs the chairman that there's no one better suited to facing off against Bai than him. The two begin plotting our hero's downfall, whispering in secret about how they will soon destroy the young master once and for all. After selling out the day's supply of the Super Bigu pill, Bai is confronted by Chairman Zhao and his lackeys. The chairman has a proposition for Bai. He wants to make a deal. Zhao is practically groveling when he expresses his deep desire for the Heavenly Society to work with Bai. He offers him 100,000 contribution points and a promotion to the next tier if he accepts. Bai is as wise as he is clever, so he refuses to join forces. This is because he doesn't want to give the secret formula that he uses to create his medicine. Zhao is insistent and says that if Bai will not sell the formula, then he could at least let the Sky Society be the ones to sell the pills on his behalf. With their help, Bai can reach many more customers and wouldn't have to worry about anything aside from increasing his production capacity. It sounds like a good deal, so Bai actually begins to consider it. While Bai is at home leisurely making his medicine, he'd be gaining fame and fortune at the same time. Zhao even proclaims that the split will be 70-30 in Bai's favor. Bai really puts some thought into it and thinks about how the Sky Society is a big family and a prosperous business. They must be worried that he's muscling in on their income, and since there's nothing they can do to stop him, it has come to this. Considering how much this deal will benefit him and his friends, Bai is a little tempted to take the offer. He tells Zhao that as a pharmacist, his first and foremost goal is to help aid and heal the people. Zhao exclaims that the Sky Society is the best way to do all three. With their help, they can crack down on shady brokers and stabilize drug prices across the realm. In doing so, all cultivators everywhere can enjoy the benefits of Bai's great kindness. Zhao then whips out a contract. Bai notices that the contract states that the price of the pill to be just 500 points. Zhao agrees that it's too cheap and asks how much he would like the price to be. He is shocked when Bai tells him the price must be the same as he first promised, if not there will be no deal. Zhao is taken aback, but he eventually relents. The price will remain cheap enough for everyone to afford. With that over with, Bai agrees and signs the contract. The deal is sealed, and soon Dong City will have the Super Bigu pill sold on every street corner and medicine shop. Of course, this means that Bai's face will be plastered everywhere, as he is the miracle medicine's creator. Leaflets rain from the sky, and banners sway in the wind as a booming voice declares the sale of the Super Bigu pill and the genius who created it, Bai. Things are looking up for the young master as we see him at home, living a lavish life with all the treasures and gifts brought on by the society's endorsement of his medicine. Bai himself is working hard, maxing out his production of the medicine with masterful spiritual control, producing up to 100 pills a day. He has personally ensured that each pill is of the highest quality before they are sent off to the society. We follow the medicine's journey as we see it leave Bai's hand, enter the society's headquarters where it's tampered with, before being brought to market and sold to one unlucky customer. After biting down on the tampered pill, the customer is suddenly flushed with enough spiritual power to make him fat and full. The people can't get enough of Bai's medicine because the spiritual energy in the city allows them to cultivate naturally without having to do anything. However, the toll on the body can leave them withered and ill if not fed properly. Back at home, Bai checks his profits and is shocked to discover he has a whopping 200,000 contribution points to his name. A knock at his door reveals two of the Sky Society's nobles have come to celebrate Bai's success, and they want to take him around the city to show him just how famous his medicine is becoming. When friends get together, they share the Bigu pill. When visiting relatives and loved ones, Bigu pills are served. The markets are flooded with people trying to buy more, each customer eager to have their bellies filled and their spirits lifted by Bai's medicine. There isn't anyone in Dong City who doesn't know his name or his deeds. As more and more meme coins are funneled into his bank account, Bai inevitably levels up. Once a red pupil, thanks to his cultivation and achievements, Bai ascends to the orange tier. Chairman Zhao is there to congratulate Bai, and as others witness this, they all begin to celebrate his advancement. It's not all sunshine and promotions, however, as one of those cheering on Bai suddenly falls ill and collapses. Bai hurries over and tries to heal the man, only to realize that he's suffering from the symptoms of spiritual backlash. Before he has a chance to help, more and more people begin to exhibit the same terrifying symptoms. Bai notes one of his pills nearby, and when he examines it, realizes that it's a fake. This means that someone has been messing with his medicine. On cue, the old medicine man joins Chairman Zhao and loudly exclaims that Bai's Super Bigu pill has been diluted, damaging its medicinal properties, and is the cause of everyone's ailments. Zhao is horrified, or at least he does a good job of pretending he is. His eyes fall on Bai, and he points an accusatory finger at our clueless hero. He cries out that Bai was the one who made these pills. The chairman condemns him for being driven by greed and a wicked disregard for human life, before begging everyone to forgive him for falling for Bai's heinous treachery. The crowd turns on Bai in an instant, calling him a fraud and loudly demanding their money back. All becomes clear as the Sky Society then announces that as a means of an apology, they will be offering a special half-off deal on their own spiritual food to help those affected by Bai's fraud. Using his own spiritual energy to help mitigate the effects of those around him, the young master states that he's not to blame, but instead it's the ones who would most benefit from his downfall, like Chairman Zhao and the Sky Society. Zhao mockingly asks how Bai could ever prove his accusations, but Bai is no fool. Having signed a contract with Zhao and the Society, he of course came prepared with a backup plan. Holding up one of his pills, he exclaims that those pills made by him will be imbued with a special, undeniable signature that will mark the pills made by him and him alone. Zhao is now on the back foot, having been outdone by the cunning Bai, but he isn't one to give up so easily. He calls Bai a liar, but the people can clearly see the difference between his pill and the fake. Confidence in the society begins to sway, but Zhao gives a signal to his own people in the crowd to turn the tide once more. These agitators then decry Bai as a liar and a cheat for what he has done. Bai recognizes these troublemakers right away, but before he can do anything, they charge at him. Bai wouldn't be where he is today if he couldn't handle himself in a scuffle, and he easily swats away these annoying flies. They may continue to discredit him, but he'll merely take them all to face justice from the higher powers. Unfortunately, for every move Bai makes, Zhao has a counter. One of the men throws himself into the river, while another injures himself severely, blaming Bai. Popular opinion shifts once more against our hero, and now the society henchmen have arrived, declaring Bai a criminal for his fraud and his violent outbursts against the innocent in broad daylight. They say that an evildoer like him deserves immediate execution. Bai has had enough and refuses to keep playing this ridiculous game. In a cloud of smoke, he vanishes, leaving Chairman Zhao and his society lackeys behind while he goes to consider his next move. Zhao orders his men to search the entire city so Bai can be found and punished for his crimes. Back at the Sky Society's headquarters, Zhao celebrates his victory over his enemy alongside the mysterious man named Brother Chen. The masked man warns Zhao that if Bai had already planned for their attempts to mislead the people, then he's likely already planning his next move. If Zhao isn't careful, his prey may turn the tables and become the hunter. We then rejoin Bai as he creeps through the city streets at night. He's careful to keep his identity hidden as there's already a reward offered for his capture. He has chosen this place, known as Bay City, because it's the lowest of all the cities in the sector. People here are worse off than anywhere else and are more worried about themselves than they are tracking down some fraudster. As he walks the streets of Bay City, he sees that the people there are abnormally obsessed with the kind of expensive pill known as the Yao pill. They're so obsessed with it that it drives many to bankruptcy and fiendish behavior in their attempts to get more. Selling this drug-like medicine is the King Group, who accumulates great wealth by driving the people to desperation and hopelessness. Bai wants to discover the secrets of this drug, but having been run out of town, he doesn't have much money left and needs to find new means of bringing himself out of poverty. A familiar voice catches his attention, reciting a poem that almost perfectly encapsulates Bai's woes, with a few simple but elegant words. As Bai turns, he is stunned to see someone he recognizes. A man, blinded by swollen eyes, offers Bai a fortune for a small fee. Zheng has seen better days. Ragged and sickly, he's peddling cheap fortunes on the street of Bay to make a living. Zheng explains that though he is a fortune teller, those who practice his craft never tell their own fortunes, which is why he has fallen on such hard times. As he begins to read Bai's fortune, he notices something very familiar with this man's destiny. However, before he can finish, Heng falls unconscious, hunger and sickness finally taking their toll. Bai feeds the poor soul one of his pills, and it brings the fortune teller back to life. Zheng apologizes for his sorry state and wonders why he saw a fate he thought belonged only to one man, a man he once knew. Zheng had one day hoped to reunite with that man, and the stress of it all must have been too much for him. Bai tells his old friend to open his eyes and to see that that reunion is today. The fortune teller's overwhelmed when he realizes that it's his old master, and the two decide that they should speak over a nice meal. The two then explain how they came to be in such dire straits. Zheng says that he had fallen out of sorts with the local King Group, who terrorized Bay City like a gang of hoodlums. When he couldn't offer to pay their protection fee, he was driven to the streets like a common beggar, a fate that has befallen many others. As if speaking their name was enough to summon them, a number of the King thugs appear, looking for the fortune teller, intent on getting the points they're owed. Bai is outraged. Not only do these punks threaten the people of Bay, but they dare to bully one of his own people. Bai isn't going to run. In fact, he intends to have a few words with these thugs. Thanks for watching my recap. Subscribe to the channel for more videos.